He is a living proof that disability is indeed not an inability, and he proves this every Monday afternoon on Unique 95.7 FM.
95.7 Unique FM of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Time check, it's 20 minutes past 2 here on 95.7. Good afternoon to you wherever you are. My name is Selassie Sikanku and I'm welcoming you to the program Lunch on Unique.
DJ Odo, as he is known, serenades his numerous listeners with beautiful tunes for an hour every day and does not need help from anyone to do it. His disability has never been a hindrance to achieving the heights he has chalked. His attention to detail and the confidence with which he executes his business leaves his colleagues in awe and serves as motivation for all who encounter him on the job.
Your face like yesterday. Hey, I go head you.
What you from?
I never go.
You know they play CDs again?
Oh, I know they play CDs.
Selassie, they play virtual DJ. But you know get eyes if they play virtual DJ. But me I know get I know they play.
Have your eyes closed?
Today on the Untold, we get personal with Selassie Sikanku, the visually impaired radio presenter who is still making strides after 14 years in the industry.
I started working here from 2010. I went to the GBC Radio and Television Training School, and then after the TV and Radio and Television Training School, my former boss, that's Mr. William Ampim, saw the potential in me, and then I wrote my application letter. I applied to be a staff of GBC, so I was accepted. Well, I love radio from my childhood days. I remember those days when I was in primary school. I put some money together, what the children used to call susu. When they give you your money for food, you save some down. So I saved, and then my dad added something to it, and then we bought my first radio. Because those days I used to disturb his radio. Maybe he wants to listen to something, and then he says I've turned the radio to another place. Those days the stations were not many, but he realized that I keep touching his radio and he wasn't so comfortable with that. So the plan was, no, then I need to buy a new radio. So I saved, and then I had a top up from him, and then I got my first radio, and that made me love radio more because I was listening to most of our renowned presenters here in the GBC, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. There's the likes of the late Charlie Sam, George Crabb, the late James Amati, and the other senior presenters, and I learned so many things from them. So that pushed me into going into radio.
Yeah, Charlie, what's up?
Being the only visually impaired person in his family, Selassie grew up in a loving home where lack was never an option. His parents ensured that he had a good education like every able child and did not push him into any form of disability school.
I did my national service at Radio Universe, and that is a University of Ghana radio station. And then I went to the University of Ghana. I did a bachelor's degree, that is a political science and sociology. And before then, I went to Okwapmai Secondary School. Those days we call it Okwapmai School. I was born visually impaired, so my parents were then living in Jowlu. So you know, my brother also came, and were two boys, two babies disturbing, and my parents were looking for how best they can educate me. They didn't want me to go to the boarding school, that's a school for the blind, because I was so young, and they felt it wasn't so appropriate to leave me at the school for the blind just like that. So they were thinking about it. So when they went to one school in Jowlu, that is a Little Flower Montessori school, for admission for my brother, they said they didn't take children at 1 year, but they take from 4 years. So my mom told the proprietor then, that is the late Mrs. Rita Kato, that she has a boy who is 4 years, but he is visually impaired. So they didn't know. She doesn't even. She's now thinking of where to place him. And then Mrs. Ketu said, no problem, you can bring him, and then we see if he can fit into our school. So they brought me to the school. I was very, very comfortable with friends. But I remember at that at that tender age, I had a lot of friends, and they go to places with me. We play, we do everything together. So that is how my nursery school started. But then Mrs. Keto didn't have a primary school in those days, so I had to go to primary. That was from the nursery school. That's from the nursery school. I had to go to the primary school, and that became a problem. We had an assurance from one school in Accra that they would accept me in the school. That's a regular school. But then when it got to the last hour, the headmistress of the school was saying that the PTA of the school would not want to accept a visually impaired person to mix with their children and all that. So it was at the last hour. So we started going from one school to the other in Accra. And there we came to the Youngsters International School, and then we met the proprietor, Mr. De Youngster, Anthony Kwame De Youngster. And he said, why not? Let's give it a try. So I went to the Youngsters. That's a regular school, from class 1 to class JSS 3. Growing up, I had my siblings and then my friends together. I did everything as a sighted person should do. I used to help in household chores. I used to, you know, those days we push car tires and all that. If I know the environment very well, I used to do all those things. I learned how to pound fufu because that's my favorite food.
His biggest challenge being visually impaired, he says, was when he went job hunting after school.
My biggest challenge is when people doubt your abilities and capabilities. Probably you go somewhere and you want to do something, or you go to look for a job, and then people don't take your certificate into consideration, but they take your disability into consideration. They tell you can't do the job rather than looking at your certificate. That's very, very challenging because you don't know how to even prove yourself when they don't give you the chance to prove yourself. So that is why I always say that when a person with disability comes to you for employment, you need to check his certificate, find out to see what he says he can do, and then if his certificate qualifies him, why not? You have to take him on. A typical day for me moving around, if I know my surroundings very well, I don't have a problem. I go everywhere without any aid. You know, every visually impaired person, if he knows his surrounding very well, he's able to move around, you know, even run if he has to run. But then when you take him to a new environment, then he becomes a bit challenged. But then when he gets to that place and then he keeps, maybe for about, maybe if I should move to a different environment, if I stay there for maybe probably a week or two, I'll be able to know that environment very well and move around freely.
So, how do the visually impaired survive in this technology-driven world?
We use the same phones everybody uses. Like I use an Apple phone, and then there is a speech software on every Apple phone, and it's not only on this phone, but if you update, if you turn it on, it comes on. So probably whatever you want to do, it tells you. If maybe you want to check the time, it tells you the time. 3:17 p.m. and then Monday 25th November. So it tells me the missed call I have. I can go to WhatsApp. Yeah. So if I'm going to my chats,
Free 2 women kissing.
I have
one unread message. Message. Free face blowing a kiss. Rose. Free 50
I have
new group.
messages coming
Great task. Free 2 women kissing.
from different groups.
48 unread messages.
Vision
Message from
Connect.
Amy Moses. This message was deleted. Adult chat room 9.
Adult chat room, and I love reading a lot of novels from WhatsApp. There's a group I'm in that they send stories and all that, and I enjoy reading those stories. So with this assistive technology, that's the voiceover, it makes you access the phone to its fullest. You go to WhatsApp, Facebook, if you want to check other things on your phone, respond to emails and all that, it helps you do those things. With a laptop, I have also assistive technology on it, and that's the same normal laptops that everybody buys. So I just install a software on it. It's called JAWS, Job Access with Speech. And with this JAWS software, it tells you whatever you are doing on the laptop. So what I do, if I'm coming on air, I have an extra sound card, so that we divide the sound into two. So if you can zoom, this is the extra sound card, so that the speech software doesn't go on air. So now the speech software will be in my headset, which will be telling me whatever I'm doing, and then the JAWS, the music would be playing. The speech access, the speech software is called JAWS, Job Access with Speech. Nothing is difficult unless if you put your mind to it. A friend of mine who I was mostly using the CD players, and CDs can be a bit problematic because sometimes it's a long time you've played that particular CD. When you put it in the player, it doesn't play properly, it starts skipping. So a friend of mine who is visually impaired, he told me that no, we can also use the laptop. So he has been doing it. He's called Raphael. And then Raphael, I sent my laptop to him, and then he set it up for me. And he himself set up the virtual DJ the way it will be comfortable for persons with visual impairment to use.
Even though Selassie says he does not wish to change anything about his condition except God wills it, there was one time in his life he hoped for the gift of sight.
I remember one time I was sick. I went to the hospital, and then it was very late. I was around 15, 14. I was a teenager. And then when I got to the hospital, the doctor said he wouldn't administer any drug to me because I'm visually impaired unless we go and then run a lab test. And we were talking about 11 p.m. So, you know, my mom was telling him that, well, I normally come to that hospital and then the drugs are administered to me. So, but if he said that, then at least he should give a painkiller to let the pain subside. And if he wants to do the lab test, they can do it. He says no, he's not going to give any painkiller. He doesn't want to administer any drug unless we do the lab test. Yes, I know doctors have their own jobs and all that, but then if you want to do a lab test and at 11 o'clock the person is ill and is throwing up, it's just very, very unfortunate. So the next day we went there and we met a doctor who knew me, and he himself was very, very appalled by the behavior of that doctor. I just like how God created me. You see, in life you don't have to say, oh God, I wish I was this, I wish I was that. This will sound a bit controversial, but for instance, most times when you go to church or a place, when the pastors see you, they want to pray that your eyes you open and all that. But well, God can do a miracle and open people's eyes, but well, most of the time when you ask most blind people, that's not their priority. Most of us want probably our jobs to want God to help us in our jobs, and then want God to also give us some cash, some money to take care of our family. That's all that we want, you know. So well, that's what it is. But yeah, I believe God has his own plan for everybody.
Ever wondered where he got the name DJ Odo? Well, he tells us now.
DJ Odo, when I was in the university, my nickname was Odo Doctor. And then, you know, the Odo Doctor, when people want to do their love connections and things. I give them certain steps to follow, and most of the time the steps ends up in positivity. So you know, people started calling me Other Doctor. And when I got into radio, I added a DJ to it because I've graduated from Other Doctor to DJ Other.
The Love Doctor is married with 2 beautiful children and says his impairment does not affect his duties as a husband and father in any way.
He was a young guy who was looking for love, and he tried some were not so, they didn't work, and then kept trying, and then finally I met my wife, and then the 2 of us fell in love with each other, and the whole thing just started working out for us. The thing is, definitely if you want to woo a woman, it takes some time. I'm going to think about it, I'm going to pray about it, I'm going to do all those things. So those ones came, and then we crossed those stages, and then we went to where she agreed, but you know, some of the family members were in disagreement, some of the extended family members, and it was a whole lot of issues. But then we had to educate them, we had to talk to them, and then they understood, and then the marriage kicked off. We had to, I got married 2016 September 3rd. I have 2 children. I have a 2-year-old boy, and then a 1-month-old baby boy. I do what every father does for his son or his daughter. My 2-year-old boy says, sometimes when my wife is busy, I bath him, I dress him up and all that. I wear his diapers for him, and then he loves me so much. Anytime he sees me, he says, "Daddy." He even wants me to be bathing him. So that's how it is. It's just interesting.
It's good to be back home again.
Oh, it's not been easy, but you know, with God on our side, we sailed through, because especially when I was looking for a job and I couldn't get, and you have to go from one radio station to another. And then that was a bit challenging, because I felt my dream to be a presenter would be dashed. But then by God's grace, it wasn't dashed. And here we are in the studios of Unique 95.7, and you interviewing me. Disability is in the mind. Whatever you want to do, you have to start from the mind. If you aim at doing something, just put all your strength, and then, you know, put God also in it, and then you'll be able to do it. Sometimes you'll meet people who will tell you you can't do it, but focus on the people who tell you you can do it, and focus on yourself. Be positive all the time and tell yourself, yes, I can, and then you'll be able to do it. And that's a Christmas piece from the camp of Christy Lane. And this is where I'd love to thank you so much for joining me on the program Lunch on Unique. Just stay tuned, we have more for you. My name is Selassie Sikanku. I love you so much, especially you. Bye for now.